live right now. I'm going to go ahead and get our intro ready to go here. Sorry I didn't get that, but here we are. Yo, what's up, Nick Gomez?
What's going on, man? Happy Monday, everybody.
Got a lot to talk about. Coach Pop.
Hey, man, the poll numbers right now are pretty telling, aren't they, Joe?
Yeah. What's up, Mario Cavasso? What up to all the peasants?
All the peasants. Yeah, I'm gonna refer to my my Twitter page, by the way.
Okay.
At some point today.
Leha says, "What the f is up? What's up, Leha?" That come from my boy yesterday too, Leha.
Yeah.
We were all having disagreements about WrestleMania. You had the faction of fans that were mad John Cena won. Send him off
Yeah.
the sunset as a champ. They got mad about that. I'm like, Cody Rhodes is the most boring WWE champ we've had in a while. Like the guy's too vanilla. He doesn't move the needle, man. The only way that he's gonna move the needle is he turns heel. And then John Cena turned heel and won. Imagine that. Imagine that. Hit the brother right in the face, kicked him in the nuts, and
welcome to another episode of the Area 210 podcast with Mike Jimenez and Joe Garcia. Make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Join the discussion as we broadcast to you live from beautiful West San Antonio. And remember to tip your hosts as it helps the show grow.
What's up, San Antonio? What's going on, South Texas? My name is Mike Jimenez. That's Joe Garcia. This is the Area 210 podcast. It's glad to be back in the saddle, but guess what? Next week, I'm hoping to be in San Antonio for a couple of shows there at Joe's crib. Again, Mike Jimenez, Joe Garcia, talking sports, pop culture, nostalgia for the next hour and a half or so. Lots to get into. We'll be talking about the Spurs getting a second lottery pick over the weekend, thanks to the Atlanta Hawks dropping pants the last couple of days of the season. We're going to talk about the NBA playoffs. We're already one game into the first round of the playoffs. Two teams in the Western Conference lost home games. The Houston Rockets, the LA Lakers, were both teams or either team exposed through this all. I have a poll on Twitter right now, at MJ Acquire Taste, asking a very basic question, right? I've asked this question several times before, but we need to address the elephant in the room, what to do about Coach Popovich, because on Friday, DJ LG did the show with Joe. Fantastic job. But after the show, it was revealed by TMZ Sports that Pop had to be taken by stretcher by ambulance out of a restaurant because he fainted and quote unquote showed signs of issues with the stroke that he had back in November. So I have a question on Twitter, on X, asking a question saying, now that we've had a weekend to process what happened to Coach Pop, he fainted at a restaurant and an ambulance took him to the hospital. What do you think the Spurs should do now? Do you want Pop on the bench coaching again? Do you even want him in the front office? Okay, so you can say, yes, you want him to coach again. You want him to fully retire, which means no front office job, or you want him still part of the Spurs organization as part of the front office. So we have that Twitter poll out there. Already 60 people have voted in the last 15 minutes, Joe. Joe, what do you think, man? How are you angling that? By the way, before we get into that, Joe.
Fully retire. I voted right now. There's the results.
Fully retire. And so far, 62 votes in the last half hour or so. A combined 95.2% don't want him to coach anymore. Wow, things have changed, Joe, because if we had done this poll a week ago, it would have been like 50-50, right? You'd have had the crowd saying, oh, well, he can retire whenever he wants. He calls the shots. He deserves every right. And now that we see him go down, have to be taken by ambulance away from a restaurant, the sentiment has changed, Joe. Not only is it we don't want him to coach anymore, there's a lot of people who don't want him even in the front office anymore. We have a $5 super chat coming in from the Drew Show, saying, God, this is basically telling Pop to clean up his room and he'll go in there and clean it up for him. I predict the future with AI modeling, Drew. Okay, so by the way, Drew sent me some AI article from Grok earlier this weekend talking about what the Spurs should do in the offseason. Dude, AI is better than Brian Wright, man. That's what I responded back. But, Joe, before we get into all this, we have to dive into what we did this weekend, Joe. How was your Easter weekend? Hopefully it was a pretty good one.
Yeah, it was a good weekend. It was a relaxing weekend. Just kick back, watch some NBA, playoff basketball. And it was as to be expected. What do you think's going to happen when you have a number 8 seed going up against a number 1?
Right.
Typical results, And I mean, there was a lot of blowouts. So I watched that and just, kind of kicked back, made some brisket for the family, enjoyed a nice, relaxing Easter Sunday. And then, of course, I got to watch some WrestleMania both Saturday and Sunday, going back and forth with Elias and, talking a lot of shit on yesterday after WrestleMania. So let's get back to talking about Coach Pop, and just say it, Mike. Don't sugarcoat things.
Sugarcoat it?
Don't sugarcoat it. You're gonna
okay. I'll say it. I won't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
I told every one of you all this. I told all of you this. Pop is not fit to be head coach anymore for a variety of reasons. A, he wasn't that good of a coach anymore anyway, right? He was the GOAT up until about 2014, 2016, 2017. Yes, he was the GOAT. And then at some point, he became too old to coach. Then he has a stroke, and everyone has this whole fantasy world where Pop is going to come back magically and have no effects of the stroke. Okay? He was an hour and a half away from collapsing on the bench, Joe. And people want him to come back, so why? He can collapse and die on the court? Absolutely idiotic, right? But again, now that you see what happened, people start to change their sentiment a little bit. Now, here's the thing, Joe. This is what pissed me off about it the most. TMZ released this 3 days after they got the video. So they had the video this entire time asking the Spurs to make a comment. The Spurs did not make a comment. Somehow or another, TMZ Sports came out and got enough clarification that they needed, and they went out there and published the story. So the Spurs were going to sweep this under the rug and not tell anybody, Joe. They were never going to tell anybody that this happened. It's like, okay. And this was the argument that I had with people on Twitter all weekend long. What right, Jimenez, do you have to know something about somebody's health? Well, first of all, that's not a normal person. Pop is not a normal person. Pop is a public figure who's the head of the only sports franchise in San Antonio, who's arguably the most popular, most famous person in San Antonio. And by the way, the Spurs also take public taxpayer dollars. Doesn't matter if it's Project Marvel. Doesn't matter if it's the Frost Bank Center, which was the AT&T Center, which was the SBC Center. The Spurs take public money. And we know every time the Spurs have a sniffle, right? If Sohan's going to miss a game because he has a flu, if Wemby with vein thrombosis, right, with the blood clot, we know everything about everyone. But because Pop is Pop, and because he's an elderly man, we're not supposed to know everything. Now, we don't need to know everything, okay? But we need to know exactly what's up, because we are a fandom of people who love our team. We love the Silver and Black, and we love Coach Pop. We love Coach Pop. That's no lack of love for him. He is on the Mount Rushmore of coaches for all time. He's up there with Phil Jackson. He's up there with Pat Riley, Red Auerbach, all those guys. He is a legend, right? But all legends suddenly are no good anymore, right? If Tim Duncan, who's a top 5 player of all time, was to lace him up in his mid-40s, guess what? He'd average 6 points per game. Why? Even though he's a legend, he's too old, right? At some point, age catches up. And now you have this whole thing going on, and I'm pissed off at the Spurs because they just sweep everything under the rug. I'm pissed off at local sports media for not knowing what the F is going on. How is it that KZEC, KENS, WOAI, KBB knew nothing of this? San Antonio Sports Star knew nothing of this. It's like, how is it possible that San Antonio Spurs have such a vault that it's like You can't actually be an investigative journalist on this, looking into this team at all. It's a vault, and it's scary, Joe, because we don't know everything that went down with the Josh Primo thing. I tell you what, if we knew everything about the Josh Primo situation, heads would have rolled. The Spurs paid up in a heartbeat for a reason, Joe.
Oh, they didn't pay up in a heartbeat. They let it get public first. They should never even let it have gone.
No. But the second that it became public, Joe, oh my God, that checkbook came out in a hurry. Breaking news: Spurs star Josh Primo dropped his pants to Dr. Hillary Coffin, and all of a sudden the checkbook came out. I was like, hey, don't finish that sentence. Don't finish that sentence. How much do you think Pop knew about that? How much do you think Brian Wright knew about that? How much do you think?
They knew.
Okay.
They all knew. They all knew.
And again, it got slipped under the rug. Why? And we look the other way as Spurs fans. They're the only franchise in San Antonio. We look away like, okay. But now Pop goes down with a stroke, right? You and I did that show in early November when this all went down, and you and I smelled a rat. We smelled it from the get-go, from the beginning. You and I, Joe, we have the evidence. We have the tapes. You and I were like, you know what? They're feeding us a pile of crap, aren't they?
No.
That's what they're doing. They're like, open your mouth, take a spoonful of crap, and be lucky that we're here in San Antonio. That's what it felt like, man. That is what it felt like. And you and I knew that press release that came out was totally fabricated. It was a complete lie, that it wasn't a mild stroke, that dude got badly done by his health. And it's sad.
I think the severity of what's been happening with Coach Pop health-wise is more than what they're letting on. You know, for him to go ahead and now have this fainting spell, be rushed to the hospital as a precaution, they say. Now he's resting at home, recovering. You know what, man? It's time, dude. You know what? I got raked over coals years ago after Kawhi had left San Antonio. The Spurs were just a mere shell of what they used to be. Things weren't going well. They were losing again, you know. Spurs fans were in flux. And I had said, maybe it's time for Coach Pop to step down. Maybe new leadership is in order. Everybody came for me. Where the fuck are y'all at now? I told you all years ago they should have moved on from him, and they didn't, because they wanted to keep him. Gentleman's agreement, right?
Joe, you and I were one of the few to actually say that. You know, they say this about players. You need to know when to exit gracefully, right? LeBron James, who had a terrible game one against T-Wolves, can still exit gracefully because he's still one of the best players in the league. We never saw Tim Duncan become a shell of himself, right? Tim Duncan walked out gracefully. I'm glad Tim Duncan exited stage right when he did, because he was 1 month away, Joe, from playing on one leg. He almost was playing on one leg down the stretch, but his production would have gone down, and we never saw Tim Duncan suck, which is great, and that's why he's an all-time legend, top 5 all-time. But we saw Tony Parker when he went to Charlotte suck ass. Tony Parker was not himself anymore. He played one season too long. He was like a banana that went you know, that went ugly, right?
Brown banana.
Yeah. So the thing about it is that Pop, if Pop had exited in 2014 after defeating the Miami Heat Big Three, he definitively would have been considered the GOAT of all time.
Yeah, he would have been the GOAT. Go out as a champ, right off into the sunset,
like David Robinson in 2003. But you have Pop go linger on through the Kawhi years, linger on through the DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge years, to the whole thing about, oh my God, we got Wemby. He stays on. And again, the oldest coach of all time prior to Greg Popovich, who's 76 years old.
Hubie Brown, man.
Hubie Brown, age 70, decided to come back. And guess what happened the first week of the season? Went down with a medical condition. Okay? This isn't ageism. This is just what happens to people. The idea that someone's going to get on a plane for 82 games, right? I know 41 at home, hopefully some playoff games, some preseason games, go back and forth, work 70, 80-hour work weeks, Joe, travel, do all of that stuff, have a high-pressure job of being an NBA head coach, and be 76, 77 years old is ridiculous. Doing it at 70 is ridiculous, Joe. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, so bottom line is this. The sentiment has changed. Spurs fans right now, want the organization to do something. So now the question isn't, should Pop come back as coach? The question now is, do we want him in the front office at all?
You know what I want to know? I want to know where David Chancellor's at, because he put that stupid tweet out there on the X saying, "Hey, for all you GM armchair GMs, Coach Pop is still, the head coach of this team. We still have a head coach.
We still have a head coach. No, we haven't had it. We haven't had a head coach since November, the first week of November, dude. And I would argue, when they were doing the rankings of head coaches in the NBA a couple of seasons ago, and they ranked the top 15 coaches in the NBA according to GMs and all that stuff, was Pop's name on there?
No.
That doesn't mean that he's not the GOAT or he's not one of the GOATs, but it just means that he was past his time.
You know what?
Drew Show with the $5 super chat real fast.
There you go.
Saying Spurs as an organization playing chicken with a segment of Faces of Death.
Jeez.
Pop kicking it on the bench is greater than JFK and Dealey Plaza back in November of '63. Wouldn't that be tragic, Joe? Wouldn't that, if that had happened on the court? Because it was an hour and a half away from happening back in November. But the Spurs told nobody. They were going to keep this secret. And I understand that there's HIPAA rules, and I understand all that. But, man, when you're the president of the United States, when you're the governor of Texas, when you're the mayor of San Antonio, when you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, when you are a big name, especially a big name that works for an organization that takes taxpayer dollars, guess what? We have a right to know.
You know what happens?
We have a right to know something. We don't have to look at the charts. We don't need video evidence. We have the right to know if something's going on. And I'm sorry, this isn't a normal guy. Do people have the right to know what happens to Joe Garcia? No, because you are man on the street, Michael Jimenez, man on the street. But you know what? We knew exactly what happened to Wemby. Imagine if the Spurs had sat Wemby down for the rest of the season and said, he has a medical condition. He's not going to be able to play the rest of the year. Might not be able to play the start of next year, but we have to sit him down. Well, what happened to Wemby? You guys don't have the right to know. You guys don't have the right to know. Who are you to know what happened? Wemby's an individual person. You don't have the right to know what happened to him. Imagine if the Spurs had done that. Imagine if the Spurs had done that.
What happens when you're a racehorse, right? And they put you out to pasture, right? Or you're a racehorse and you get injured. What do? They take you behind the woodshed. Boom, send you to the glue factory. You're a sled dog, right? You're out there doing those races, out there in Alaska. Right. When a sled dog gets past his prime, they take him out there with the other sled dogs, find a nice little place out there in the woods. Guy has been out there, the musher, takes the sled dog out in the woods and boom. Then comes back. The dog ain't with him. Where'd he go?
So let's talk about like what's going on now, because the normal thing that Spurs fans would say is, hey, look, if he doesn't coach this team, Pop belongs in the front office, right? Now, I'm going to let you guys know something. About a week ago, I would have been not okay with it. I would have been understanding about it. But now I don't even want him there anymore, Joe. Because the more I think about it, the shadow that is cast by Pop being there, you can't move on if your ex is still in the room. I hang out with Chica, right? Chica's my girl. We cannot share a house with my ex-wife, right? You either move on or you don't. And the idea that he's going to be able to be a Pat Riley kind of guy right now, who Pat Riley is front office, he handpicked Eric Spoelstra, his successor. The idea that you're going to go back in time and Pop's going to be able to handle that, he's not going to be able to, Joe. He's physically unable to do anything. And a lot of Spurs fans are like, well, you got to dangle that carrot in front of him for the purposes of his health. You do not hijack this organization from its fan base in order to try to help somebody out mentally. Yeah. You know what? That you could do that in different ways, Joe. You can do that different ways. And right now, the Spurs are in a situation where we got to find out who's the head coach of this team because it ain't Pop and he ain't coming back. To quote Rick Pitino when he was with the Celtics, Larry Bird ain't coming back through that door. Kevin McHale's not coming back through that door. Robert Parrish ain't coming back through that door. Well, guess who isn't coming through that door? Tim, Tony, and Manu, and Pop. Pop is done. And Spurs fans finally got it over the weekend.
Yeah. What happens when the end is never clearly defined for you? You know, if you're watching your favorite player and they're getting up there in age, sometimes they get injured and they be like, oh, they're going to come back. Sometimes that doesn't happen. That can also happen with coaches as well. You never know when the end is nigh, but I think Spurs fans have seen Coach Pop on that court for the last time. At this point, just go ahead and send him off, you know, have a tribute video for him in the first home game of next season. Send him off into the sunset and say it like I put it on the X. Rest easy, King. Go and take care of your health, man. Don't worry about it. The game of basketball is not bigger than your own health, man. You got to take care of yourself. Go out and enjoy retirement. Maybe we'll see the fans every now and then with, you know, Manu or Tony or Timmy at some point enjoying the game. It's time, man. Just go out and enjoy life, dude.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. The Spurs need to do something about head coach. A head coach, right? Is it going to be Mitch Johnson? Is it going to be Taylor Jenkins? Is it going to be Mike Malone? The Spurs need to make decisions right away. And Spurs fans are excited about the future, but now we know that that future is no longer with Pop. We all know that. Now, Jason Minix of San Antonio Sports Star, this all went down around early afternoon, Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was watching on YouTube on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star on their YouTube stream of Minix and Reinagle going back and forth because Reinagle was going back and forth with me on Twitter. And the fire department responded back to Jason Minix's response to a statement. The way they described the situation tells you everything you need to know. The fire department described the situation as we had to attend to an elderly man near 80 years old. They didn't refer to this as a strong man. When you're referred to as an elderly man, Joe, that's an issue.
Yeah.
On top of that, it went on to say that he showed obvious effects of having a past stroke. Obvious effects of having a past stroke. Okay, first of all, from a man-to-man basis, I don't want anything bad to happen physically to Pop. I mean, understand that there's two different dynamics here. One dynamic is, as a man, you want him to be healthy. You want him to be with his loved ones. You want him to live a long, healthy life. I'm coming at it from the perspective of a Spurs fan because at the end of the day, you know, things outlive us, Joe. The Spurs will be here after Pop. The Spurs are going to be here after Wemby, right?
Yeah.
The world moves on. If I die tomorrow, if I die today, guess what? The world will keep going. Same thing happens with Joe. Everybody, the world moves on.
Yeah, keeps on going.
And maybe I am a jerk for coming at it from a Spurs fan's perspective, but guess what, Joe? At some point, you've got to be realistic. And I think half the Spurs fan base there, the In Pop We Trust fan base, was totally unrealistic from the get-go.
Yeah, that fan base is so sickening to me, man. They're always, in Pop we trust. Pop can do no wrong. And the Spurs, we live or die with the Spurs. Get over it, man. Timmy's not coming through the door. Manu, Tony, Pop. It's done, dude. It's a different era.
They didn't want to come to grips with the fact that Pop was going to be too unhealthy to coach this team ever again, right? And then before that, they were too, you don't know ball, Jimenez. You don't know ball, Joe. They had that attitude when it came to, you know, you do realize that Pop isn't even a top-tier coach anymore. He's not even the top half of coaches anymore. That all the coaches in the NBA look at Pop and go, kind of past your prime, dude. You know, the game has evolved. It's moved on. And instead, we had half the Spurs fan base out there saying, Well, Pop has 5 rings, and he can call it a career when he wants to call it a career. He has earned that right and all that stuff. It doesn't matter if the Spurs have had 6 losing seasons in a row. It doesn't matter if we're ruining the first contract of Wemby's career. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matters, Joe. You know what? I live in a capitalist society. I hope you do too. It's what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
And Pop has not done anything lately.
We got some super chats we got to address. We got a $5 super chat incoming from the Drew Show. Drew, we appreciate the support.
Appreciate the support, man. It says, what doctor approves a 70-something-year-old stroke patient to be choking down steaks at Ruth's Chris? Anyway, what are you doing here, man? Well, I mean, I guess technically at Ruth's Chris, you could be eating other things. I mean, they do have a good salad that they have there. But, I mean, if you go to Ruth's Chris, you're having steak. You having steak. We have a $10 super chat coming in from Ben G. Thank you so much for it. Saying, sup, fellas. Still coming down from our loss last night. We'll bounce back, though. And he's showing the Rockets. The Rockets red glare. Rockets losing game 1 to the Golden State Warriors. Our good friend Matt Lerma on Twitter posing the question, did the Rockets get exposed? Dude, only Alperen Şengün came to play. Everybody else just didn't show up. We'll talk about the playoffs in a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about the Spurs. But Pop, rest up, dude. Rest up. Okay, we want you to have a long, healthy life. We want you to do what you want to do. Enjoy the wine. Follow the team. Go to all the games. But I don't want you working anymore, dude. It's time to call it a career, man. Enjoy the wine. Enjoy the grandkids. Enjoy the games. And be a fan. 95 votes in, Joe. This poll's been out for less than an hour. 95 votes in. 50% saying move Pop to the front office. 45% saying he should fully retire. And 5%, only 5%, Joe, saying that Pop should come back and coach.
Like Mario Cavasso says, right. Pop dying wish is to die on the sideline. He is the type. He is the
ride or die type.
Yeah.
You
know what's funny here too? Elias says Mike just texted me saying Pop goes the Weasel.
Because the Weasel goes Pop. Spurs got a second lottery pick over the weekend. Atlanta lost both games to the play-in tournament. And you know what's funny, Joe? This is why I say that you and I have a fantastic show and arguably the best sports talk show in all of the 210 South Texas, the Space City area, wherever you want to call us, wherever we're doing the show, Joe, is because we see things before others do, right? You and I talk about Pop from Laco from a while back. We're jerks, right? We're big a-holes for all that, right? But we were right. Back in the day, we're talking about, Joe, you know the Spurs could get a second play-in, second lottery pick. Here's all the different things that need to happen, right? And it wasn't until like Friday that all the other sports talk shows, all the other sportscasters and all that were paying attention to this. Why do they not pay attention to this early on? I'm there. We've been saying this, Joe, for the longest time. This needs to happen. This needs to happen. Here's a probability of this all happening. And this is why it's important for the Spurs fans to cheer for Orlando, to cheer for the Dallas Mavericks in a particular game. And guess what, Joe? The dominoes fell in the Spurs' way. Apparently, and I don't know if it's happened yet, there's going to be a coin flip to see if the Spurs pick at 13 or 14 or go into the draft at 13 or 14. But it means something, Joe. Ping pong ball combinations. Now, back in the day, Joe, it used to be that there were actually legit ping pong balls and they would get picked out and they had a team's name on there. That doesn't happen anymore, Joe. It doesn't happen that way. It is ping pong ball combinations. So they pull out 12, 5, 11, 3. Who has that combination, right? And they hand out X number of percentage of combinations to X number of teams based on what they do. The top 3 teams in the lottery have a 14% chance of winning the number 1 overall pick, like we did a couple of years ago when we got Wemby, right? But getting this second pick means a lot of different things. If you are in, hey, we got to draft the best players available or maybe move up, it means something because it's draft capital. If you're like Chris Leha from MCS General Contracting, which powers our chat here on YouTube. And he says, F them picks. Well, great, F them picks. But you know what? If we're going to F them picks, it's more valuable to have a 13 or 12 pick than it is to have a 15 or 16, Joe. Right? If we're going to F them picks, it's valuable to have a lottery pick than a non-lottery pick.
Well, look what he's saying. He says talking F them picks because he's like talking about the picks in free agency is pointless when we don't even know who the effing coach is.
I get that, but the world keeps going, Joe. We already have a coach. If we're going to use that phrase, guess who our coach is?
Man.
As of right now, the head coach of the Spurs is Mitch Johnson.
Why?
Until someone is taken otherwise, it has to go with the assumption that he's there. He has to be the assumed head coach. Now, if it's Taylor Jenkins and if it's Michael Malone, I'd be fine with that. But as of right now, going into the lottery, the Spurs need to make some changes between now and June because that's when the draft is, right? Lottery is going to be in a few weeks. We're going to need to know who's going to be the one drafting at that point, right? It ain't going to be Pop. It ain't going to be Pop. But why is everybody just looking at this like it was no big deal that Atlanta lost 2 games in a row? Like, oh, there's no big deal between pick 16 and pick 13. There is a big deal, Joe. Because if there was no big deal, the team picking at 13 could have told number 16 to jump in front of them, like Jerry Jones did back in the day when he allowed a team to jump in front of him, right? No, there is a point value to all that you're doing, especially if you're doing a trade. If the Spurs are going to trade this pick for whatever reason, we did that last year, right? Spurs traded the number 8 pick in the draft for a 2030 swap and a 2031 pick. I believe it belongs to the Minnesota Timberwolves. We did that, right, with the number 8 pick. If we're going to trade this pick away or try to move up in the draft, it is more valuable for us to be having a lottery pick than a non-lottery pick. So Spurs fans, I understand that some of you are in the F them picks mentality, but guess what? If you're going to F them picks, at least make them valuable to trade or move up or move down or whatever the case may be. So the Spurs have in worst case scenario, the pick number 14, right? As of right now, that adds a 3.4% chance of moving into the top 4. If the Spurs get pick number 13, it's a 3.8% chance to move into the top 4. So now we're looking at the Spurs having a 30% chance overall because as of right now, we're slotted at number 8. It's essentially a 30% chance, a 3 in 10 chance, Joe, of getting into the top 4. So for those of you who play poker, that's kind of the equivalent of having pocket 8s and somebody has pocket jacks and you winning with pocket 8s because you either get a straight or flush or trip out.
Those picks? What are they going to do with said picks? All right, they have 2 picks going into the draft. What did they do when they had 2 picks in the previous season, right? Last year in the NBA draft lottery. They had 2 picks, and what did they do? They got rid of one to go ahead and flip those for 2 picks in the future. Was it 2030 something, right?
2030 swap and a 2031 first rounder.
That's what they did with the second pick. What do you think they're going to do with these 2 picks now?
I think they're going to keep them. I think the Spurs are going to keep them or move up.
What would be the smart thing to do? Yeah, package them together and move up in the draft to get somebody worth a damn, right? That's going.
Well, we got to see how it plays out draft wise, right? Lottery wise. We got to see
that happens. The other thing they could do, Mike, is this: stick with your pick, right? If you get top 8 pick, cool. Second pick, we don't know. It could be 13, 14, 15. All right, whatever. If the Spurs want to draft for Neat, get that second pick, trade it to somebody else, and draft further down. You could drop further down in the draft and draft for Neat.
Well, here's the thing about the draft right now. So the Spurs got rid of the number 8 pick last year. Was a good thing. Okay. Spurs fans, I remember our good friend John Dyer, who has hosted this show from time to time, was really excited when the Spurs got Rob Dillingham at number 8. Remember, everyone was screaming Dilly Dilly, right? But everyone knew, Joe, that particular draft was weak. We all knew it.
No.
That there were maybe 3 or 4 good players in that draft. The Spurs won the lottery to pick at number 4. Again, winning the lottery has been in the top 4. And we got Stephon Castle, who will be named Rookie of the Year. But look at who the Spurs were crying for last year. In 49 games, Rob Dillingham averaged 4.5 points per game. So we have to crucify Brian Wright when he does wrong, but we have to praise him when he does good. That was a very, very, very good trade for the Spurs because at number 8, there was nobody else there worth drafting. I know some Spurs fans will say Dalton Connect or whatever the case may be. That's fine. But at number 8, trading Rob Dillingham for a swap and a 20, 30-round first rounder was a good thing. But now, and we've talked about this, we all knew last year that was a weak draft. What are they saying about this year's draft? That it's pretty good. At first, they were saying it was extremely good, but now they're saying it's actually pretty good. Okay, they're still saying well above average. So they have 2 lottery picks at a well above average. What that basically means is, Joe, is that if you're picking at number 8, you're getting a guy that normally would go 4 or 5 in a regular draft. If you're picking at number 14 or 13, you're getting a guy that normally would go number 8 or 9 in a draft.
You trust
These
Brian
are valuable picks.
Right thing? You think Brian Wright's going to do the right thing and draft a good player at said position? I don't want him coming down. This is the thing. Brian Wright, you're going to have to hold his feet to the fire now because he might not have the top 4 pick. 1 through 4 were no-brainers. Now that you're going to be kind of out there in no man's land, 8, 13. Let's see what you can really do. Put your money where your mouth is. Go out there and show me that you can go out and scout and actually pick a player worth the shit. Because now you ain't done nothing.
I want to thank David Otwater for reminding us how big that trade was of Rob Dillingham, or the number 8 pick in the draft. If you can show his comment there. Spurs traded that 2031 pick for De'Aaron Fox. So when the Spurs traded that number 8 pick, it was in an effort eventually down the road to F them picks into something tangible.
You could use now,
And that's what they did.
Yeah. Look, we got another $5 incoming super chat from the Drew Show. Thanks, Drew.
Yeah. It says, Pop is like Sergeant Hulka after he got exploded on the tower in Stripes. We have no Big Toe. We have no Bill Murray. Mitch, he's Cruiser. Okay, first of all, Stripes is a great movie. One of the few movies from the 80s that I watched a lot growing up. Sergeant Hulka is amazing. Who's Francis then? Don't call me Francis.
People don't even know what the hell we're talking about, dude.
Dude, Stripes is a great movie, man. It's a great movie. And that's a fact, Jack. Others are saying they wanted us to get Buzelis. Matas Buzelis.
Mátalo.
MEZBX says, I don't want another Sohan at 8. Again, the 2022 draft when the Spurs had 3 first-rounders was a weak draft, Joe. I need Spurs fans and those who are listening to podcasts to understand that there are good drafts and there are bad drafts. Look at the NFL. In the NFL, you have certain drafts that come out where you have a quarterback out there that you know is going to be a stud, right? Yeah. You have these stud drafts out there, and there's some that are weak. In the NBA, I mean, we talk about Stephon Castle, right? Castle is Rookie of the Year. But I'm sorry, he wouldn't have won Rookie of the Year 20 of the last 25 years.
Look at Jordan Schneider. He has a good comment that I posted up here. He says, why draft more young guys when Blake and Malachi already rotting on the bench?
Because they're going to get rid of Blake and Malachi. At some point, Blake and Malachi are only on this team for one more season.
They're the rotten banana there, dude. Rotten, getting brown in the bag, bro.
Yeah. But you see, you have to replace. If it doesn't work out, guess what? You don't just keep them on the team forever. You keep them on the team until they run out. You gotta. It's kind of like going to the slot machines. I was at WinStar Casino over the weekend, pulling the slots on the slot machine. Right? If it doesn't hit the first time, you keep pulling it, dude. You hope that it eventually pays out. The Spurs pulled it enough to get Tony Parker and Monty Ginobili in the second round. They got Parker at 29. They got DeJounte Murray at 29. They got Derek White at 28. They got the ping pong balls going their way to get David Robinson, to get Tim Duncan, to get Victor Wembanyama. At some point, you need to have a combination of picks that you pick and you develop, and you need to have those role players. The Spurs won 34 games this season, Joe. 12 more than the year before.
No.
I would say that it's because they had veteran leadership on that team.
Who was the one who was instrumental in this team winning 12 more games? That would be CP3, Mike.
I would say Harrison Barnes more than CP3, but CP3 played all 82 games. So did Harrison Barnes. They both did a fantastic job.
Both of them did a fantastic job. It's CP3 was just more vocal as a vocal leader out there on the court, helping the team kind of come together, keeping them even keel when it was getting out of hand for them, and they were kind of wanting to implode when they were in close games or they're trying to come back from a double digit deficit in crunch time. And that was Chris Paul kind of just, telling them, hey man, this is what it takes to win at the highest level. This is what you got to do when you're in a close game or trying to come back. And Harrison Barnes just going to be the Toyota Corolla out there. It doesn't do nothing sexy, man, but he gets it done every night.
Well, CP3 didn't do anything sexy either. He showed Stephon Castle how to get assists. I mean, this is a guy that averaged 8 points per game. So let's not have this belief that CP3 was out there balling. He wasn't. He didn't make an ass out of himself. But he wasn't balling, dude. He was doing a decent job out there.
He found himself on the bench near the end of the season because
Castle
was balling out.
Yeah. But, you asking us, well, what are the Spurs going to do in the draft? Well, the Spurs could go in a variety of different directions, Joe. Who falls to the Spurs? That's the big thing. Our good friend Eric Salinas, who's part of Spurs Twitter, I made a tweet out there saying, I really enjoyed a mock draft that I saw from Sports Illustrated. There are 5 names that come up to me that I think to myself, I want to have on this team if the Spurs are not in the lottery. Obviously, we want to have Cooper Flagg, right? Obviously, if we were picking number 2, it'd be Dylan Harper of Rutgers. Obviously, if we're picking at number 3 or 4, it's going to be either Ace Bailey of Rutgers or VJ Edgecombe of Baylor. Those 4 players should be the top 4 off the draft, right? You have Cooper Flagg, who's compared to Scottie Pippen.
Yeah,
I think it's an interesting comparison. You have Ace Bailey, who's a dynamic, explosive playmaker. You have VJ Edgecombe, who's silky smooth, getting to the hoop, can knock down some buckets. Okay, those are going to be who we want in the top 4. 30% chance of getting one of those 4 guys, which would be amazing. But there's a 70% chance of us picking at around 8 or 9, picking at 13 or 14. And who's going to fall our way? Now, if you're going to say Concanepple from Duke, be happy with him, right?
No love for Asa Newell?
Well, Kaman from Duke, fine. So if we're going to get Concanepple, kind of a Swiss Army knife, right? 6'6", 6'7" guy, goes out there. He's just a baller, Joe. He's just a ball. He's a glue guy, right? He's going to go out there. He's going to get you points, going to get you rebounds, going to get you assists. A little bit of everything. Kind of reminds me of Josh Giddey. He does a little bit of everything, Joe. You throw him out there. What position does he play? He's a baller, right?
Edgecombe can't shoot. He'd be like second coming of Jeremy Sohan.
Well, no, Edgecombe is silky smooth get into the bucket, Joe. And the guy's clutch.
But he can't shoot.
Well, okay, let's talk about that, Joe. I put out there Trey Johnson from UT. Trey Johnson knocked down 40% of his three-pointers, right? Averaged 19.9 points per game for UT. Had a high usage rate. They say that he basically has he shoots too much, right? Like he thinks he's wide open every time he catches the ball. So his basketball IQ may not be there in the sense that he forces shots up there.
Mm-hmm.
But he's lights out from 3, 40%, Joe. It's not one of these guys that we think, we just gotta teach him how to shoot better in the NBA. No, the dude knows how to shoot right now. Eric Salinas, our good friend from Spurs Twitter, was shooting down, going, I just don't like him. He just doesn't have that IQ. But you know what? Know your role. And his role could be to go out there and just snipe it and just shoot threes, right? No different than Doug McDermott back in the day. Then you look at Concanepple from Duke. Freshman, goes out there and proves on the March Madness stage that you can just simply be a good teammate. Is that a superstar? No, Joe. That is not a Victor Wembanyama. That's not a De'Aaron Fox. That is not a Stephon Castle. But a glue guy. Somebody who comes into it's just energy. Just somebody who goes out there, makes the right pass, high basketball IQ, can knock down threes. Con Knipple, if he's a pick at the Spurs get 8 or 9, I'd be happy. Kaman from Duke, 7-footer, 7'4" wingspan, considered to be the Draymond Green of the bunch, considered to be the Rudy Gobert of the bunch. Again, we have a 7'3" small forward in Wemby. I mean, they say he's a power forward, but he's really like a small forward. Then you need to have somebody out there. Imagine having Wemby out there blocking shot after shot after shot after shot, and they get by him, and Kaman's out there with a 7'4" wingspan. He's 7 feet tall, and he's behind him swatting as well. Bring back the Twin Towers. I'd be happy with that. Go on to Asa Newell from Georgia. Again, our good friend Eric Salinas was not about it, man. Asa Newell is somebody who doesn't have the shooting prowess necessarily, but the guy has a motor on him. He's a faster, higher flying Jeremy Sohan.
6'9", 19 years old.
6'9", 19 years old. And what happens, Joe, when the Spurs have to look at a restricted free agent, Jeremy Sohan, at the end of next season?
Gone.
Coming out, and they go, well, we got Asa. We're fine.
Jeremy Sohan ain't worth 17 mil, 16 mil. If that's what he's going to garner to keep him. His name will be gone.
Right.
Let him go, dude.
And then you have those other names like Kasparis, who's the point guard. And those are draft and stash guys. The Spurs could potentially draft and stash. I'm just looking at it this way, Joe. The NBA, this is a very good draft for the Spurs. And I know that we have these people who are like F them picks. I would F them picks if it was last year. We F'd one of those picks, got a first rounder and a swap in return. Guess what? We flipped that for De'Aaron Fox. I don't think that this is necessarily the F them picks draft, Joe, because there are good players in this draft because we need a certain player. And I know a lot of Spurs fans are going to be like, oh, well, they're just 19, 20 years old. I get that, Joe, but at some point you need to infuse youth and veteran leadership together. And the Spurs have started that process.
What is
Harrison Barnes is back on this team. We don't know what this team looks like with De'Aaron Fox, Joe. Yeah. De'Aaron Fox played only a handful of games with his team and looked good. He did it with one hand. We don't know what we're going to have with De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox comes as a full season with his team. Stephon Castle as a starter for the full season. Wemby coming back. Harrison Barnes being the Toyota Corolla. And then you infuse a couple of young players, maybe get a decent. Everyone, Spurs fans are enamored with Naz Reid. Guess what? We get Naz Reid, we don't need Sohan.
Yeah, get rid of him.
Yeah.
Look at this. Oklahoma City Thunder, right? One of the youngest teams in the NBA and arguably one of the best teams in the NBA, right? They're number one in the Western Conference. Mm-hmm. And they were able to build their team going through the draft. I get that, but they also have a very good front office. Something that the Spurs don't have, right?
Well, the front office are people who came from the Spurs.
Yeah, but Oklahoma City Thunder,
including Chip Engelland, our shooting coach from back in the day.
What I'm saying, the comparison is Oklahoma's front office is better than the Spurs. Spurs can't go and look to the draft to go ahead and add additions to this team and get better. What happens with the Spurs is they've shown that they're not very good at making those types of decisions. What they can do, though, is they can go ahead and go to the draft and maybe draft some players and build towards the future. But you also have to mix it up with some veteran leadership. And that's what they've done in this past offseason, acquiring CP3, acquiring Harrison Barnes, adding them to the mix, going out, making a trade and getting Fox in here, adding him to the mix along with Wemby. They've done some good things in that regard, but you need to keep adding some veteran leadership to this team, or players that are either three-point specialists or players that can go ahead and knock down a consistent bucket. You need some bucket getters.
Right. Most definitely. And it's a delicate balance between veteran leadership and the youth, because the youth eventually is going to take over for that veteran leadership.
Yeah.
Because veterans cost money, man. They're veterans for a reason. It's because they outlasted their rookie deals. I'm looking at Pro Sports Network's NBA mock draft, which was released today. Of course, they have Cooper Flag going number 1 overall. They have Dylan Harper of Rutgers going number 2 overall. They have VJ Edgecombe of Baylor going number 3. Let's talk about VJ Edgecombe. Okay. He is silky smooth, man. I don't know how to describe the way that he plays. He's so fluid offensively. He glides through. He's not herky-jerky. He just seems like he's just a baller who just, you give him the ball, he makes his way in. He's so smooth out there. But if we're going to ask the question, can he shoot? He shot 44% from the field and 34% from 3. 78% from the free throw line. I mean, it's all right, right? It's all right. But the thing is that he averaged 6 rebounds per game, 3 assists per game, 15 points per game, all as a rookie or a freshman for Baylor. He has a lot of potential, Joe. He's also 6'5". Not bad, man. But if we're going to go back to that mock draft, let's see who they have the Spurs drafted at number 8. They have Trey Johnson of UT going number 4, ahead of Ace Bailey at number 5, who they have going to Philadelphia. They have Kamen going from Duke, the center, going to number 6 to Brooklyn. They have Jeremiah Fears, the point guard from Oklahoma, going to Toronto at 7. I was watching a lot of Jeremiah Fears this past week. Do the Spurs take a good point guard? Do we need another point guard out there? Do you go for talent or do you go for need? Jeremiah Fears averaged 19 points per game as a freshman. He gets to the bucket, Joe. Maybe you just tell Castle, hey, you're a 2 guard now. Number 8, they have the Spurs taking Con Knipple. Says he turns 20 in August, that he's a polished prospect, that he's a lethal 3-point shooter, and he has a clear role in an NBA. A clear role. We talked about this, Joe. He ain't going to be a star. Con Knipple's not going to go out there and make all-star teams. But what he might be is that glue guy that plays 27, 28 minutes per game, averages 13, 14 points per game, gets you 6 or 7 rebounds, 6 or 7 assists. He's going to be that guy, Joe. Swiss Army knife. Swiss Army knife. Finally, if you go down to Spurs picking at 13 or 14, they have the Spurs taking Nick Clifford out of Colorado State. Read up about Nick Clifford over the weekend. The guy can shoot. He can shoot and plays down low. So they would go and get somebody who is a power forward center type they can bang bodies down low. The question is, do you trust him playing against good competition because he wasn't necessarily in a good conference? But Joe, let's get some love. I see you wear the hat. MCS General Contracting, they power the chat. Let's give them some love. Diamond Heart Concrete, baby.
MCS General Contracting, more than 30 years of combined experience in concrete placement. They are the best in the business. Honest pricing, high quality work. They get going on house foundations, driveways, concrete patio decks. If you want to extend the deck, extend the driveway. If you're a business and you need to put together a slab, a parking lot, or other concrete placement services or sidewalks, reach out to MCS General Contracting at 210-774-9155. They're confident in their skills, so give Chris Leha over at MCS General Contracting a call at 210-774-9155. And thank you for being a sponsor of this show.
What kind of concrete is that, Joe?
That Diamond Hard Concrete.
That's what I'm talking about, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Con Knipple, we have Tony Ronaldo saying that if he ain't Austin Reeves, I don't want him. Why do we have to compare white players to other white players? That's what I don't understand. But I'm looking at the Ringer. By the way, one of the best draft guides that you're going to have out there is the Ringers. Go to nbadraft.theringer.com, and they have a really good breakdown of every player. But what I like about it is that they have here are the 4 players, like a Venn diagram of who a certain player plays like. They have Con Knipple being a player most like Gordon Hayward. So if you like a Gordon Hayward, again, Gordon Hayward was a good player for many, many years in the NBA. Many, many years. We talked about Trey Johnson, right? They have Trey Johnson as a player most resembling Allen Houston from the Knicks back in the day.
God, blast from the past. Hey, but Allen Houston could shoot the ball.
He could. Everyone seems to be in love with Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey is considered to be a Rudy Gay, Jaden McDaniels kind of guy. I'm going to give you one other one. Kaman Maluak, the 7'2" freshman center from Duke. They consider him to be a Kel Ware or JaVale McGee type of player, but a higher level JaVale McGee. Just defensive minded, Joe. Just defensive minded.
Okay.
But thank you to MCS General Contracting. Let's give that number to them as well. If you have your concrete placement needs, 210-774-9155. They do an amazing job. They did a job at my house. They did a fantastic job. And guess what? It's helping with the resale of that particular house because they did an extension, adds to the property value, helped protect the foundation. They took care of me, man. They did a very good job. 210-774-9155, not only for residential, but for business and for government needs as well. 210-774-9155. People are like mocking the whole Gordon Hayward thing. They're not all going to be stars. Are we drafting the 92 Dream Team? Is that what we're doing, Joe?
No, man, not at all. all you're trying to do in this draft, you have I guess a nice mix of player. You're going to have a lot of these players who are like forwards, shooting guards. You probably have a point guard here and there in the mix. You got some forwards out there. You have some big men that are going to be in this draft that could garner some attention, but the Spurs, if they go ahead and get that pick at 6 or 8, let's say, for example, they get locked up with the 8th pick overall. That's where the ping pong balls fall, and that's where they're going to pick, right? More than likely 8th. And they have another shooting guard, or they have a small forward there. And that's the best available player. Yeah. I see them pulling the trigger on that. They're not going to go past that.
Well, MEZBX reaches out to us and says, I've seen Jeremiah Fears mocked to the Spurs at 8 and Liam McNeely mocked to the Spurs at 14. Jeremiah Fears is interesting because I'd be lying if I said that I knew everything about Jeremiah Fears. I'm going back in time and watching Oklahoma games, and you watch him out there, and what I like about Jeremiah Fears, no pun intended because of the name, he appears to have no fear. That the guy is just a ping pong ball. He attacks the bucket and he gets to the rim. Does he make the best decisions at all times? No, but he's only 18 years old, Joe. He's going to be the youngest guy in the draft. He's 18 years old. And when you see him go out there and play, he is just somebody that is highly aggressive. And don't you want that, Joe? Don't you want to have a player who's like, give me the damn ball, man? Not this passive crap about let me find my role. Let me find my. Jeremiah Fears grabs the ball and does something with it. You know, he's an alpha type of offensive player. And I think that that's amazing. As a rookie, averaged 17 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Again, just 18 years old going into the draft. He will be 18 years old after the draft. But can he shoot the 3, Joe? 28% from 3, Joe. 20. I mean, you look at it and you think to yourself, you like the intangibles of he liked the ability to go attack the basket, attack the rim, to be a facilitator. BX saying that he wants Asa Newell. I like Asa Newell, dude.
I've been saying I like Asa Newell. I wouldn't mind having him.
Dude, I'm sorry, man. He is. You know what? He's Jeremy Sohan-ish, but I like his motor, dude. I just think he has a higher motor. I like his play, dude. And if we're gonna have to pay Sohan at some point, it's time to replace him if he isn't gonna like step up, right?
Look at what Leonard says here. He says, "I wish all the folks that posted highlights of draft guys wish they showed all their negatives and things that they need to improve upon." And that's if you look at the scouting reports, it tells you everything you need to know.
Well, let's talk about Stephon Castle about that, man. What was the big knock on Castle coming out of the draft? The guy can
What?
ball, but he can't shoot.
And you know what? He's kind of played true to that too. He does show at times, that he needs to go ahead and work on his shooting ability, but his off the ball ability, being able to put the ball on the court, create his own shot, very confident going to the rim. All those things are pluses. He's using his speed and his athleticism to his benefit. But for longevity's sakes, he does need to work on his shot.
Right. Did you see the interview? I can't find them. Maybe we can show it tomorrow. But Draymond Green was on a podcast last week talking about Stephon Castle. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
It warmed my heart, man, because Draymond Green is one of the finalists for Defensive Player of the Year. And they were asking him about various players, like who's his pick for MVP, who's his pick for whatever. And they asked him about Rookie of the Year, and he goes, no doubt, Stephon Castle. And Draymond Green, future Hall of Famer, right? It's what, 4 chips?
Yeah.
He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when it's all said and done, right? We talk about glue guys, Con Knipple being a glue guy. Draymond Green's the ultimate glue guy on that team. He didn't have the Steph Curry shooting ability. He didn't have the Klay Thompson shooting ability or the Kevin Durant shooting ability. But guess what he did? He got buckets. He got assists. He got rebounds. He was a glue guy. He kept the team together, right? Try to go find that on TikTok or on YouTube. The interview that Draymond Green gives where he starts talking and praising Stephon Castle. He didn't say Castle's going to be a good player. He didn't say Castle's going to have a long career. Draymond Green said Castle's an all-star. He says that it was a weak draft, and we're going to look back in time, and they're going to look at the stats, and they're going to go, a guy that averaged 14.5 points won Rookie of the Year. We talked about that, Joe. Yeah. We talked about how it's one of the lowest points per game for an NBA Rookie of the Year in the last 50 years. It's like the 7th or 8th worst, right? But at the same time, Draymond Green, who is a 15-year veteran of the NBA, I'm assuming he's been around that long, looks at Stephon Castle and thinks to himself, that guy's an all-star. Like, that guy's going to be an all-star. And it warmed my heart. It made me feel better about things because we have that F them picks mode. I get that. But we hit, Joe. We hit on Stephon Castle. And Joe, who was the one talking about Stephon Castle the earliest, Joe? Me and you.
Yeah.
We talked about Castle from the beginning. It's almost as though this show's pretty good, Joe.
At predictions.
Let's talk about the NBA playoffs. They say that a series doesn't start until a road team wins a game and a home team loses, right?
Yeah.
We saw 2 over the weekend, both in the Western Conference. We saw the LA Lakers lose to the Minnesota Timberwolves. We saw the Houston Rockets fall game 1. They got their asses handed to them by the Golden State Warriors. I know they came back and got it within 7 points, but it was an ass whipping from the get-go. Did they get exposed? LeBron James with only 19 points. The Rockets only had Alperen Sengun show up. You look at it, Joe, and then on the flip side, you have the Oklahoma City Thunder win by 51.
Jeez, dude. I saw that game. I was watching it. It was just crazy, dude. I mean, they just decimated their opponent big time. It's embarrassing, man. But again, you have the 8th seed going up against the number 1 seed. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, I mean, I get that, but this just shows to you how impressive this team is. This Oklahoma City Thunder team is. I don't think that, because ESPN needs to go for ratings, they'll talk about Luka Doncic joining the Lakers and Luka and LeBron. And, it's not sexy to talk about Oklahoma City at all. But when you look at the standings, Joe, what I find most impressive about them is the point disparity, the point differential that they have compared to other teams, right? So you see Oklahoma City, right? They had 68 wins. They were 68-14, right? Most wins in the NBA. If you were to go to the Eastern Conference and look at the point differential, the team with the highest point differential was Cleveland at 9.5 and Boston at 9.1, which means they outscored their opponents by an average of 9 points per game. But you go to Oklahoma City Thunder, Joe, they outscored their opponents by 12.9 points per game, Joe. 12.9 point per game differential was one of the greatest of all time. This might be, Joe, one of the best teams in NBA history, and we're not acknowledging it. Because not only do they have a point differential of 12.9, they played in a better conference compared to the Cleveland Cavaliers and Boston Celtics. So I find this to be fascinating. Dude, put in permanent marker. Oklahoma City is going to the conference championship. We know it. It's an easy path for them. But we saw on Saturday, the Pacers beat the Bucks 117-98. The Bucks just aren't the same anymore, man. They're just not the same anymore. The Nuggets pulled out an overtime victory against the Clippers 112-110.
That one was an interesting game to watch because you had Kawhi playing in that one, and everybody was talking about, hey, man, Kawhi's coming on strong here to end the season. He's going to be ripe for, taking this Clippers team far into the NBA playoffs. And look what happened. The Clippers went up on the Nuggets. Nuggets came back to tie the game. Then the Clippers all but disappeared in the final overtime period. Nuggets came out the victor.
And Kawhi shot 9 for 15. He played 41 minutes.
He played 41 minutes, but the thing is that the Clippers, they always do this kind of thing when they get into the playoffs. They always choke it away, dude.
Jokic was a rebound away from a triple-double. He had 29 points, 12 assists, 9 rebounds. Keep in mind, they got rid of their head coach just 2 weeks ago, Michael Malone, who was their winningest coach of all time, got let go a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, they gave him shiny bucks.
Yep. The Knicks beat the Pistons 123-112. That's going to be a good series, dude. I'm a believer in the Pistons. And then you saw the Timberwolves go out there and beat the Lakers 117-95. Lakers look strong in the first quarter, but then Naz Reid took over.
Yeah,
Naz Reid, who last week we were seeing these predictions from these gambling sites saying that if Naz Reid doesn't re-sign with the T-Wolves or doesn't re-up with them, that the Spurs would be the favorite to get him. Okay, if you get Naz Reid, guess who we don't need, Joe? Sochan.
Man. Bye.
Naz Reid going out there. I think he knocked down like 6 3-pointers, if I'm not mistaken. 6 of 9 from 3, 8 of 12, 23 points in that game 1 victory. LeBron James was scoreless in the first quarter.
Ooh.
LeBron James only had 19 points, and Luka Doncic came to play 37 points. But it wasn't enough. And that's the problem. You need to have Luka and LeBron both going off at the same time, and LeBron didn't bring it.
Yeah, the Lakers just got lazy, I think it was, on, guarding the wing, things like that. They let other players from the Timberwolves beat them besides Ant-Man. And, I mean, is that going to happen in the context of a 7-game series or, the series that they're in right now with the Timberwolves? Probably not. I don't think it'll happen again. I think the Lakers will have a better showing. Game should be a little closer, but the Lakers got to come out, man. They got to shell out. You have to have big production out of both your star players in one, LeBron and Luka. Right now, they just showed that they just didn't have it, weren't feeling it in the first game, but they need to if they want to get back in the series.
Yes, most definitely. Hey, we have the militia guy in on our YouTube stream, again, powered by MCS General Contracting, saying Vassell and Keldon will be used to either move up in the draft or to get an all-star small forward this team needs. Hey, man. From your fingertips, your lips to God's ears, man, when it comes to all that, man. That would be amazing. Tony Ronaldo is reaching out to us saying about Josh Primo saying that he was showing promise and whatnot. I hear that all the time. I don't know what games people were watching. Josh Primo had like 3 good games in his career. What was I missing here? Well, I'm looking at his stats.
Primo, this is the thing. Everybody always wonders, what was he going to do? Because he started getting better, He was getting better, and it's like, hey, man, maybe he's on the upward trajectory now, because he's starting to put some things together. But we never know what's going to happen because as his fire was just getting lit, and it got snuffed out because he was a damn cochino. And it came out that he was a cochino when the Spurs were on the rodeo road trip.
But people make it sound like Josh Primo was averaging like 14, 15 points per game.
He was going to be
that he had a trajectory that was high. Josh Primo averaged his final season with the Spurs 7 points per game.
Josh Primo was going to be a piece. He was just
Yeah.
going to be a guy, a role player. This is your role, play it well.
He was going to be Trey Jones.
Yeah.
He
And
was
there's
gonna
nothing
be,
wrong with that. You need that on your team along with some of your star players. Everybody
yeah,
needs to
but
play their role
you don't
well.
want you don't want Trey Jones when 3 picks after him was Alperen Şengün, who made All NBA third team this year. Or was going to make All NBA third team this year.
Tony Ornelas, Primo was going to be special. You can feel it.
Yeah. I'm going to be on Locked On Spurs later on this week. I just got a text message saying that I'll be on this week, so I'm looking forward to that. But let's give some love to Jeff Garcia from Locked On Spurs and Ken's 5. Let's see what he's up to these days.
Locked On Spurs is your daily Spurs podcast, hosted by Jeff Garcia, the lead Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Jeff has a healthy plethora of guests all the time on the Locked On Spurs podcast. You can also follow Jeff on Threads at Jeff G Ken's 5 SA. You can also follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff G Spurs Zone. So make sure you go ahead and give Jeff a follow not only on Threads and Twitter, but also on YouTube at youtube.com/@Locked On Spurs. This is where you're going to be able to find the replay of the Locked On Spurs podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share.
Lots going on today when it comes to Jeff Garcia from Locked On Spurs and Ken's 5. I know the season's coming to a close, but he's talking a lot about Shannon Sharpe, and I don't want to get into the whole Shannon Sharpe thing because a lot of it could also just be nonsense. Shannon Sharpe being accused of cochino things, but you know what? Here's the thing, man. We've seen so many people get accused of things that didn't get accused of that. It turned out to be nonsense. It turned out to be someone going after money. So I don't want to get into it until we have details come out of it all.
But the thing is that he's being accused of being a cochino with the gal that he went on the Instagram live with, Fiasco, right?
Right. But beyond all that, though, it also coincides with the fact that he just signed a big deal with his podcast, with the Shay Shay Network and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, the big announcement over the weekend was he's now making more money as a podcaster than he did as an NFL player. And how incredible that is. I mean, we're seeing that with New Heights with the Kelsey brothers, right? They're making just as much, if not more, with their podcast than they did as a player. Shannon Sharpe is now being that as well. So I find it to be highly suspicious that announcement's made and then all of a sudden this lawsuit comes out. I find it to be highly, highly suspicious. So I don't want to throw Shay Shay under the bus when we don't know everything that went down with that. But again, Jeff Garcia, Locked On Spurs. I subscribe on Spotify. I subscribe on YouTube as well. Daily content. He usually takes it a little bit of a breather during the offseason, but we've got the draft coming up. Speaking of drafts, Joe, the NFL draft is this week.
Yep, it is.
Do you have ESPN Insider?
No, I think so.
There was an article. If we can take a peek at it, because I haven't seen it yet, but I saw the NFL, the Insider today had an article from Adam Schefter. And that's very rare, Joe, because typically Adam Schefter is the guy that that is being interviewed. But Adam Schefter did a story today. And I want to get into that. Maybe and if we can't get into it now, we'll get into it tomorrow. But it was basically saying, because the draft is Thursday, first round of the NFL draft is Thursday. It was basically saying what his intel is telling him. Like, as of right now, what is the state of the NFL draft? Because, again, just 3 days away, Dallas Cowboys picking at number 12. You have the Houston Texans picking in the 20s. I want to see what he says because he knows so much about what's going on. We have a new mock draft that came out by CBS Sports, Joe. Released an hour ago. This is based on the analysis of Jonathan Jones of ESPN. Of CBS Sports, rather. They had number 1, Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami, going to Tennessee. They have Travis Hunter going to Cleveland, the wide receiver cornerback combo. They have the Giants passing on a quarterback and taking Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State, at number 3. They have Will Campbell going number 4 overall. He's an offensive tackle from Michigan going to New England. They have I'm sorry, I got that incorrect. He's a LSU offensive tackle rather. Mason Graham going number 5 overall. He is the D lineman from Michigan going to Jacksonville. They have Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State, going number 6 to Las Vegas. Going to number 9, my Saints. This is a new name, and I wouldn't mind it. They have offensive tackle Kelvin Banks Jr. of UT going number 9 to the Saints. And at number 12, they have the Cowboys taking Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden. Going to number 23, which is where the Texans pick. Let's see. Oh, actually, number 25. Gray Zabel, offensive lineman from North Dakota State. Hey, man, North Dakota State, man, they got some ballers over there, Joe. But the draft is Thursday night. Let's give you some moving and shaking. What we do know about the NFL draft is that the NFL draft is going to have a lot of trades because that's just what happens. But, Joe, as it's settling in, have you decided whether or not you're a Cowboy fan or not?
I'm always going to be a Cowboy fan, dude. But will I claim them this season? I don't know, man. They've been pissing me off going back to last season, and I'm getting tired of the losing. So my Sancha team has been the Texans, and I'm still going to keep them as my Sancha team.
I'm looking at this mock draft, Joe. Guess where they have in the first round?
Where?
They have them gone.
Gone.
They have Shedeur Sanders. According to CBS Sports' mock draft, the Shedeur Sanders will be bumped to the second round. Remember, Shedeur Sanders was invited to the draft to be part of the green room. What did he do a week ago, Joe? What did he say? Nah, I'm good. He didn't want to be Aaron Rodgers, who was projected to go number 3 overall, the mid-20s. He didn't want to be that guy, right? Imagine being a first-round talent, potentially, projected to go in the first round and not be picked at all. It's happened before, Joe.
Well, I can show you something here. This is I'm looking at ESPN Plus, right? And they had this as of April the 21st. This is where their predictions are at as far as where Shedeur Sanders is going to fall. So I'll go ahead and show you here. The predictions are right here, as you can see. And at number 9,
going to the Saints.
Going to the Saints.
You know, we brought up the fact that everyone said I was racist.
What? Oh, God.
We brought up the fact that he can't run.
Damn, you're going to double down on that. All right.
Well, I mean, the idea of having a Kirk Cousins quarterback in the year 2025 is weird. What is the mobility of Kirk Cousins?
Not very good.
Not very good, right? And if he can't get and if the pocket collapses, can he get out? No, he just gets sacked. And Shedeur Sanders is that guy. Now you might say that he didn't have the running game that would be as good of a threat, so that you could kind of give him the ability to be a squirrely and get out. I get that, but my God, he doesn't use his wheels. He has no wheels. And I'm not saying that he needs to be Mike Vick. I'm not saying he needs to be Josh Allen. But my God, you don't do anything with your legs. It's weird. Yeah. It's just weird. It's just weird. If my Saints get him, of course, I'll be a big fan, right? I'll be a big fan. But Jackson Dart, you know, if I was the Saints, man, I would just get a quarterback in the second round, man. Hope that Jackson Dart's there in the second round. The over-under for the number of quarterbacks picked in the first round is 2.5. And Adam Schefter of ESPN last week on Get Up was saying, if I had to bet money on it, I would bet the under. And it's so weird because last year we had 6 quarterbacks picked in the top 12.
Yes,
Jeff DA said, Mike isn't racist. He has plenty of African-American QBs as friends. Well, didn't we have one on our show, Joe?
Oh, Frank Harris?
Frank Harris.
You and Frank Harris are like kindred spirits, man.
Dude, we need to bring him back. That was a freaky interview, man, because who would have thought that Frank Harris was a 24-year-old version of me?
Yeah, it's like there was that scene out of Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends?
Yeah. Very, very, very nice. Hey, Joe, you talked about what you did over the weekend. Let me tell you what I did over the weekend if you want to show my Twitter account.
Sure.
Me and Chica had a date, Joe, a 48-hour date. And I surprised her. We went out to Dallas, and we went to this nice hotel in Dallas called the Warwick Melrose. We stayed there for a couple of days, and I took her to go see Boys to Men perform at WinStar. She had no idea where we were going. But Joe, what I did not realize, and this is nothing against anything, okay? I didn't realize the Warwick Melrose was inside of the LGBT community in Dallas. We had a blast over there. So if you take a look, if you want to show the photo where she's in the parking lot, we were like, hey, when in Rome, dude, we're just going to hang out. And it was a good time. We went to the Liquid Zoo. They had karaoke there that was hosted by a drag queen, and it was called Sherryoke. But she was dressed as Cher. And we hung out over there. It was fun, dude. We had a blast over there. And Chica was like, oh, you just didn't want guys looking at me because you took me to a place where guys would not be looking at me. But if you want to go up to the top, I posted a video.
Yeah.
So she had no idea, dude. We went on to the WinStar. She thought we were just going to go to the casino because she was like, I guess we're going to WinStar, because I told her a surprise. Every restaurant we went to was a surprise. The spa day was a surprise. Boyz II Men is one of her favorite bands of all time. They were performing at WinStar. I got her 6-row seats. Wanya Morris threw a rose into the crowd. Guess what? She was the one who got it. But if you want to show this for a few seconds, Joe, play it up. What's different about Boyz II Men now? What's different about them is that we remember them as a 90s R&B band. You go to their concerts, they put on a rock show. So don't get me wrong, they sang End of the Road and I'll Make Love to You and all that stuff. They sang 7 or 8 of their own songs, right? But this is them singing Purple Rain. And what we remember was this band that would dance, that would not play instruments. But you see Wanya Morris there singing, Sean Stockman playing the electric guitar, Nathan Morris playing bass. They went out there and they said, hey, we're a band, dude. We were a boy group back in the day, but we're a band now. They were playing Lenny Kravitz music. They played the Beatles. They played Prince. They played a bunch of covers, though. And that was pretty cool. They asked the crowd to light it up for Prince, to send the song out to Prince. It was pretty badass, dude. It was something that a lot of the people in the audience were not expecting. They were expecting this crooning band that was going to go out there and just sing their hits. And they were like, nah, man, we got other stuff that we want to play. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Cool, man. Looks like you had a good time.
It was fun, though, man. Trying to show a little bit more of a romantic side, Joe. I'm going to need a co-host to come in on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday because I'll be out of town. So DJ LG, if he can come back in on Friday. Joe, you and I have talked about the possibility of dialing back the shows during the summer. I don't know, man. Part of me says that's cool. Part of me says I'd like to keep going daily, but we'll figure that out, man.
Yeah, I was just saying because
there's not a lot to talk about.
Yeah, when you get into the lull of things, right? Once you're going to pass the NFL draft, right? NFL draft, then you pass the NBA draft lottery, and you have about a month or there where things get really exciting after the draft lottery because they have free agency going on. But then there's like a month or month and a half where it's just nothing's happening. You don't have football anymore. Baseball's the only thing to be talked about. You're waiting for training camp to start for the NBA. Then you're waiting for training camp to start so you can talk about football. Then you're having preseason games and whatnot. But there's not a lot in between there, for about a month and a half. Maybe during that month and a half is where we're like, hey, maybe we just do the show Monday, Wednesday, Friday until things pick back up. But we'll take a look at it,
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Joe, the Pope died.
I know. I saw, man.
It's the memes coming out today because the last person he met with before dying was Vice President J.D. Vance. And, of course, the memes had to come out, man. So what happens now is, don't they have like the Council of Cardinals come together and then they They do an election, and then
dude.
according to the movie Eurotrip, white smoke appears when they've named a
new pope,
a successor pope.
That's everybody congregates in Vatican City, right? They're going to be there for a long time. The faithful go out there and pray and whatnot. They're just waiting. The news reporters are all there at the steps, waiting to figure out what's happening. And then see the little white puff of smoke come up the smokestack. Oh, a new pope has been named, and then everybody's waiting to go ahead and see who it is and get their interviews in and everything. And comes out and waves to the whole congregation of people that are gathered at Vatican City. It's a whole thing.
Let's pick the over under of age.
Oh,
it comes to Pope.
Old. Mike, come on.
I mean, because like Pope John Paul II for like the vast majority of my life was the Pope, right? He spoke in San Antonio, what is now Stevens High School, what is now SeaWorld. Back in the day, he spoke out there. I remember the stage blew off because of the winds.
They still have the commemorative plaque right at Stevens when you're pulling into when you're getting into the main one of the entrances on the side there on the school. They have that plaque, and it says this site is commemorative to Pope John Paul II. Because they were saying what had happened on this sacred ground.
Right, and I remember all that happening. And John Paul II for the vast majority of my life was the Pope, and it was kind of like Queen Elizabeth. You think that they're never gonna die because you've had them in your life for so long.
Didn't he come out in the Pope Mobile? Right, they had him in the Pope Mobile driving down the streets of San Antonio.
Yeah. So I'm looking popes by year, right? So let's go back in time. So we have a list of popes according to Wikipedia, and we're not going to be making fun of anything, dude. It's just it's Pope Francis passed away, and we had a pope that recently retired, right? I mean, who's still alive, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Alive but retired,
right? Which was kind of weird because I remember when that happened, everyone was like, "What the heck is going on?" But Pope Benedict died in 2013, or he was Pope until 2013, and then you had Francis from 2013 to 2025. So Pope Benedict, is he still alive? Do we just bring him back out?
I don't know, dude.
Oh, Pope Benedict died in 2022. Okay, but I want to see how long Pope John Paul II was, right? Because John Paul II was probably, I would say, 30 years, Joe.
He was the Pope for a long time.
Let me see here. Pope John Paul II was Pope from 1978 to 2005. Woo. 27 years. So, Joe, think about that, Joe. Think about that.
I was 3 when he was named Pope, bro.
I was 1, and then he was 28 years old. I was 28 years old when it all happened. So that's my reaction towards popes. I was used to one being there for so long, but John Paul II. Let's see how old he was. If he was born in 1920 and he became president in 1978. Pope in 1978. He was 58 years old, Joe. So they have had young popes. He was 58. He was 18 years younger than Coach Pop. So that being said, get a young one, man. But I'm going to set the over-under at 74, Joe.
Probably I would have to agree with you. 74, 75, yeah.
And then we're going to be back to this, man. John Paul II was a rock star back in the day, man.
It was. He would get around everywhere. He was taking pictures with celebrities.
Did he get shot?
I think so. And then he was also hanging out with a lot of world officials, was it the prime ministers of like England and all these other prime ministers, and hanging out with a whole bunch of people, man. He got around, dude.
Yeah.
Even with actors. Remember, they would show him with actors going to see him. I think he even took pictures with like John Travolta went to go see the Pope at some point in time, and he took pictures with them. I was like, man.
Matt Gomez said, LMFAO, we're doing over-unders.
Hey, we might have to call up Matt Gomez again. I'll call DJLG again. And I want to get Leha in the studio, man. I know he's a busy guy. He's always working. Hardest working man out there in San Antonio, dude. He's always out there laying down that diamond hard concrete. I want to see if I can get him in the studio for a bit.
Well, if you go back to my Twitter page, we hope so too, man. I hope so too. Go back to my Twitter page on today's poll. Spurs fans are hoping that white smoke appears from the Rocket La Cantera and that the Spurs name a new head coach, right? Because I asked the question on a Twitter poll this morning, just 2 hours ago, 144 votes in 2 hours. It says, quote, now that we have had a weekend to process what happened to Coach Pop, he fainted at a restaurant and an ambulance took him to the hospital. What do you think the Spurs should do now? Do you want Pop on the bench coaching again? Do you even want him in the front office? And right now, Joe, a combined 91% say they want him to not coach. Only 9% want him. 91% don't want him to coach. And of that 91%, they're split as to wanting him to fully retire or just be moved to the front office, Joe.
He should fully retire, man.
Pull the plug.
He can't no more. It's his health is in question. Spurs fans at some point need to learn to let go, dude. I think they're just holding on to Coach Pop for sentimental reasons. But his health is in question right now. Y'all just got to let him go. Give him his flowers. Let him go about his business. Take care of his health. Enjoy life, man. Maybe you'll actually see him there at a game from time to time, hanging out with Manu or Tony or Timmy, Bruce Bowen or somebody, RC and Coach Pop out there in the box somewhere watching the game. Cool, man. Clap for him, cheer for him, but let him go, man. I don't know what the fascination is with Coach Pop and why Spurs fan want to see him basically keel on over there on the sidelines. You don't want to see that, man.
Right.
Let him go. Let him go.
Hey, Joe, did you know that Pope John Paul II was Pope for 9,658 days?
That's a long time.
Did you know the Pope before him, Joe? John Paul I was only Pope for 33 days before he passed. That's weird. But going back in time, Joe, I mean, like I said, John Paul II was the guy, man. For the first 3 decades of my life, he was the guy in the Catholic Church.
The rock star.
He was, Joe. But like as I said, the whole smoke rising from the Rocket La Cantera, it's time to move on. Spurs fans have all come to that conclusion at that point. It was 50-50 a week ago, but not so much anymore.
Look, we had some breaking news here just a little while ago. It was announced by Sham Shania. He goes, the Atlanta Hawks have fired general manager Landry Fields. Gave him a shine box.
Which is weird because I thought Atlanta had a pretty decent year this year, man. You would have thought that after losing a lot of players, after drafting Zachary Reese-Arcee, number 1 overall, who's probably going to be the runner-up for Rookie of the Year, after making the play-in tournament when no one expected them to, bunch of injuries, I thought he did a pretty decent job. I'm a little bit surprised.
They wanted him gone, so he's out there on the market now. Spurs got questions to make. They got some big decisions to make here. They move on from Pop, and who's going to be the successor?
As of now, it's Mitch. Until he's told to bring in his playbook, it is still Mitch Johnson. And the idea that Mitch Johnson's going to go back onto the bench as an assistant coach is not truthful. Hey, if you could show my number real fast.
Sure.
If you could show my number real fast, 210-508-0369. The stock market is down again today, but if you have questions about retirement accounts, I do investments. I've been doing this for 19 years. If you have an old 401k, old 403b, an IRA someplace you want someone to manage it, I've been doing this for 19 years. 210-508-0369. Right now, the Nasdaq's down 474 points. The S&P is down 140 points. We're 1,000 points below the high point, which was in February. Part of what's going on in the market today is that China says that if you're going to make an agreement with the United States, that they're not going to be making any agreements with you. So the trade war continues again. Trump is going after tariffs, and he wants to make deals with certain countries. But China's coming out and saying, if you're messing with us by dealing with the United States, you're not going to get our cheap stuff. So you either get cheap stuff from China or more expensive stuff from the U.S. That's the battle today. 210-508-0369. What I do when I do people's retirement accounts is that I oftentimes will protect a portion of it, if not all of it. You can invest for the future and be up to 100% protected when it comes to your balance, which means you can actually invest and not lose money in a given year. It is possible. I'll show you how. 210-508-0369. Also do life insurance, disability, long-term care, auto insurance, and homeowners insurance. 210-508-0369. Joe, I think I'm going to jump on and play some Roblox with my daughter real quick. She's been FaceTiming me wanting to play Roblox. God. So I'm going to do that for a while.
Roblox, dude. I don't get the gist of Roblox. My niece likes to play Roblox a lot. I can't get into the game, dude. It's just nothing. Like a bunch of mini games. It's just mini games.
Yeah, and the games are not exactly very I I'll play like Mario Kart with my oldest daughter.
Yeah.
And Mario Kart is fun. There's a lot of really good graphics. Yeah. A lot of good music, and it's fun. Even when you play Halo or any of those things, right? Roblox is like going back to Atari. I mean, the graphics are not there. It's clunky. It's hard to play. But that's what the kids like, man.
There's no, what do you call it? There's no objective or real goal there. It's just play the game.
Yes. Hey, thank you to Tony, John, Rafa, Matt Gomez for being part of the stream as well. Mario Cavazos, Harry. We had Drew Show with the super chats, Chris Leha, all you guys, JHNSB, Jesse A, Ben G, Militia Guy, Ren G. Thank you so much, MEZBX. Thank you so much for being part of it. Alex Noriega was part of the show today. Don't forget to hit the like button. Ismael Lugo, that's a newer name.
New one. We also had another guy that was in here that was
Bear County Social Apparel.
Yeah, we had Cassell, I think his name was. He was joining us too. So thanks for that. Yeah,
Calcell. There you go. Hey, thank you so much, man. He asked the question, is VJ Jimmy Butler? That's a very good way of looking at it. Edgecombe from Baylor. Yeah. He's smooth, dude. He just gets to the lane. I like watching him play because he glides. I don't know. He just glides to the lane. I like watching him play, dude. It's badass. But anyway, everyone have a fantastic day. We will be back tomorrow doing sports, pop culture, and nostalgia. I am not afraid to say this, Joe, but this is the best show that we have, dude. This is the best show in South Texas when it comes to sports, because especially if you're a Spurs fan, especially if you're an NFL fan, we break it down. We don't tell you what you want to hear. We tell you what you need to hear.
No.
And we oftentimes are proven right by the long haul. Time proves us right, Joe. We were right about Pop. It's sad. But everyone, have a fantastic day. I got to go play some video games with my daughter, then get back to work. But we will be back tomorrow.
All right. See y'all boys tomorrow. Peace.
Rest.